Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Raj Malhotra IAS. I hope I am audible. If I am audible, just let me know. Hanji, guys. Good morning, everybody. If I am audible, just let me know. Audible. Okay, thank you so much. And if you are able to see this PDF, let me know. Just give me a type. Yes. Yes, sir. Okay. So let's start our analysis for today. Yesterday, there was no newspaper of Hindu e-paper, as I had mentioned in the community post of our YouTube channel as well. Why? Because there was this holiday on this occasion of Pongal and Mankar Sankranti, right? So there was no edition of Hindu newspaper for the 16th of January, right? So that is why yesterday there was no newspaper. But right now, we are now starting with the 17th January newspaper. And the important news that we have in today's newspaper is directly on page number 6, right? It is related to one more cheetah dies in Kuno, 13 of original, 20 remain. Now, this is a one another, we can say, a setback that is coming from Project Cheetah. I think everybody is aware of Project Cheetah that was started in the year 2009, but it was only last year when we had cheetahs that came from Namibia and South Africa, right? So in totality we had 20 cheetahs that came from Africa, from Namibia and South Africa, into the Kuno Palpur National Park. Now, one of the point that we have to understand in this context is that Project Cheetah, if we talk about it, is one of the flagship project that India has, one of the very important projects, a conservation project that has been started by India in order to restore the glory that once existed in parts of India in the form of Asiatic cheetah, right? But once we know that Asiatic cheetah had become extinct in India by 1952 because of the incidents like poaching and etc. And as a result, from there on, the hunt was on that we need to reinvent the cheetahs back into the Indian territory. And finally, this dream came true when last year we had cheetahs that set on the shores of India last year from Namibia and later on from South Africa as well. And in totality, we have 20 cheetahs that have come from Namibia and South Africa. But the challenges that have been associated with relocation of these cheetahs in this part, which is quite, we can say, alien to these species, is quite evident. Now, one of the points that we have to understand is that there have been certain incidents of the death of cheetahs, like due to kidney failure, due to a certain heart ailment as well. Then there have been deaths due to mating cases as well. Plus, there have been deaths that have been caused due to parasitic collar infection as well. But this particular cheetah that has died, if we talk about, is about, we do not know the real cause right now, that what has led to the death of the cheetahs, because by January 15 this cheetah was completely fine and completely healthy. But we have seen that this cheetah has died, and this puts a very big question mark on the success of the Project Cheetah. Okay, whether this Project Cheetah would be a success or a failure, only time will tell, but it is too soon to declare anything. But what we have seen over the last 1.5 years is that there has been a certain problems that has been with the cheetahs, that they have found it very difficult to adjust to these conditions, because at back home their vegetation and their climatic conditions are entirely different as compared to the hot and humid conditions that we have been found in this Kuno Palpur National Park. Plus, one thing we have to understand is that Kuno Palpur National Park is not big enough to accommodate such a large population of cheetahs. And in the upcoming future, if we want to have a sustainable and a viable population of cheetahs, we need to make sure that we need to relocate them to some another tiger reserve or other national park as well, that will make sure that their population is sustained and is living in a very long and a healthy manner. And last year there was this proposal by Rajasthan government that they are ready to incorporate some of the cheetahs from Kuno Palpur National Park, but there hasn't been any response from the center and from Madhya Pradesh that whether they want the cheetahs shall be moved out from Kuno Palpur National Park or not. But one thing we have to understand is every country of this world if we talk about, is looking at Project Cheetah, and it is high time that we take serious efforts and conservation efforts in order to make sure that we are 100% dedicated enough that we want to conserve the population of cheetahs and we want to increase the population of cheetahs, and that will be a big factor in determining whether this Project Cheetah will be a success or a failure. Now, if we talk about certain challenges, let's try to discuss and dissect more this topic. Now, when I talk about the challenges, one of the major challenge in Project Cheetah is coexistence with other top predators like leopard. Then there are challenges like hunting and poaching. Then there are challenges of retaliatory killings. Then there is a relocation problem of Saharia tribe as well, that is still living inside the Kunopalpur National Park. Plus, there have been certain decline in the population of prey as well that could go adverse against the cheetahs as well, right? So these are the certain points and the challenges that we have to understand. And I think in next year or this year UPSC mains, we might get a question on the success or failure of Project Cheetah, right? So originally we had 20 cheetahs that came from Namibia and South Africa. So one has died, now only 13 remain of original 20. Now, the people who have been advocates of this particular policy that cheetahs dies is because there is a survival rate of 50% population of the cheetahs only that has been advocated, and the stance that has been given by the government कि इनका जो सर्वाइवल रेट है वही 50% है, तो हम इसमें ज्यादा क्या ही कह सकते हैं. But this thing shall not be taken as an excuse, and effort shall be taken towards so that we are able to maintain the healthy population of cheetahs. I hope you are able to understand this point, that India originally had Asiatic cheetahs, but Asiatic cheetahs right now is found only in Iran. When we talk about African cheetahs, these are found in Africa, and the ones that we have got in India right now are the African cheetahs, not the Asiatic cheetahs. Now there's a big difference between African cheetahs and Asiatic cheetahs. African cheetahs की अगर हम बात करते हैं ज्यादा strong होते हैं, whereas Asiatic cheetahs are more pale in color. Second important thing that you have to understand is Asiatic cheetahs की जब हम बात करते हैं, then they are found in Iran, where their numbers are in critical endangered category as according to IUCN, that is International Union for the Conservation of Nature. But when we talk about the population of cheetahs in Africa, so we have an abundant population of cheetahs in Africa. But that doesn't mean that we can bring in a lot of cheetahs. There's a particular limit that cheetahs could be stabilized in Indian context. So as a result, we have to be very much vigilant and careful that what lies ahead for us in this context of Project Cheetah. I hope this point is clear to everybody, right guys? Okay. Now, moving to the next part. Now, these are the two articles that are there that I wanted to discuss with you. One is related to an dragging of Israel by South Africa in International Court of Justice, where they are trying to indicate that the killings that have been done by Israel on the soil of Gaza is basically close to genocide, right? And it comes within the Genocide Convention of 1948. But what has been said by Israel that they are just doing a retaliation for the attack that was conducted on their soil by the Hamas. So these are the blame games that are being done at International Court of Justice related to the Israel occupying certain areas of Gaza and killing innocent people, where the Gaza, if we talk about the innocent people, yes, they have lost their lives. But when we talk about Israel, Israel is saying we are just retaliating on the basis of attacks that were conducted by Hamas. But South Africa says that the way specific people have been killed, if we can say, of the people of Gaza, then you can come and commit very closer to the Genocide Convention of 1948, that it is an act of genocide, right? So these are the points that we have to understand in this context. Now, this article is very interesting. It is about geopolitics in the Bangladesh election results. I think everybody knows that the ruling Awami League has won and Sheikh Hasina has won the election. But there are certain concerns related to this whole prospect of Bangladesh and its geopolitical relations. Now, here the contesting parties that are of cause of concern that has been discussed over here are India, China, Russia, and USA. Now, let's try to see certain economic facts of Bangladesh. When we talk about Bangladesh, it is ascending as a rising economic powerhouse. It has an annual GDP growth of 7.1%. Its economy is exceeding $400 billion. It has population of over $165 million. So this strategically located nation has been at the center of geopolitical tug of war with regional and global powers such as China, India, Russia, and the United States dying for influence. Now one of the point that we have to understand, let's say we talk in context of India. अगर मैं इंडिया की बात करूं तो if we see there have been volatile neighbors of India like Pakistan and Afghanistan. So Bangladesh stability is very, very important for India in that context. Second important thing is from the economic point of view that India and Bangladesh has a bilateral trade of nearly $15 billion. So this is a very important prospect that is there related to India and Bangladesh. Third important aspect that is related to India and Bangladesh is that India can use Bangladesh as an what we can say countermeasure against the China's Belt and Road Initiative. Now, China has been very much instrumental in making sure that they are developing ports in Bangladesh and carrying on their Belt and Road Initiative. But India somehow is trying to moderate this particular aspect because India knows what China is going to do through this Belt and Road Initiative. Now, one of the important point that we have to understand is because of these important geopolitical scenarios that is being surrounded with Bangladesh. As you can see over here, that China is getting closer to Bangladesh. India has a lot of interest comparison to Bangladesh. So as the result, our Prime Minister was the first that promptly congratulated the Prime Minister of Bangladesh after her win, committing to fortify the partnership between India and Bangladesh. Now, the second aspect is related to USA. Now, when we talk about USA, USA has been a little bit critical of the regime that is there in Bangladesh because of certain concerns related to कि यहाँ पे अगर हम बात करें बांग्लादेश के अंदर डेमोक्रेसी ढंग से मेंटेन नहीं हो रही है, इलेक्शन प्रॉपर नहीं थे, इलेक्शन फ्री नहीं थे, इलेक्शन फेयर नहीं थे. So as a result, this particular interference of USA in Bangladesh sovereignty is somehow being attacked and as seen as Bangladesh that USA is infringing upon them. बट यूएसए इतना ज्यादा भी अगर हम बात करें बांग्लादेश यूएसए से इतना ज्यादा भी एडवर्स नहीं हो सकता बिकॉज इट हैज अ लॉट ऑफ बायलैटरल ट्रेड दैट इज गोइंग ऑन विद यूएसए कंपैरिजन अगर हम करें तो उस केस में उनकी गारमेंट इंडस्ट्री का बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट बेस है अगर हम यूएसए की बात करते हैं सो इफ वी टॉक अबाउट यूएसए एंड बांग्लादेश सो यूएसए इज लिटिल कंसर्न्स इन बांग्लादेश रिलेटेड टू द elections. And second of all, there is very important scenario that you have to understand that there has been this garment factory business, then the trade that happens between US and Bangladesh, that is very important. Now when we talk about China, China is Bangladesh's number one trading partner with annual bilateral trade exceeding $25 billion, and they have said it very clearly in opposition to the stance that has been taken by the USA, where USA has been saying कि election जो हुए हैं वो सही नहीं हुए हैं. Here they have clearly said election is completely an internal issue of Bangladesh. Bangladesh knows the kind of election required. So they have tried to play a very smart game over here where they have tried to say, अरे Bangladesh का matter है वो खुद solve कर लेंगे. And on the other hand, once we know that under its Belt and Road Initiative, China has financed over $10 billion worth of ports, bridges, highways, and other critical infrastructure. So this is the point that we have to understand that when we talk about China, China has vested interest in Bangladesh in relation to its Belt and Road Initiative. So India has certain interest, USA की अपने interest है और China की अपने interest है. Now comes about Moscow and Russia. Now Russia has drawn Bangladesh closer through financing one of the nation's largest infrastructure projects, that is the Rupur 2400 megawatt nuclear power plant with over $12 billion. With major investments at stake, Russia has been a key interest in Bangladesh election. In a unique act of collaboration, when a Russian ship carrying nuclear material was denied entry due to US sanctions in 2022, India intervened to receive the cargo and transported it by road to the construction site. And Russia also congratulated Sheikh Hasina on her election victory. So these are the points that are absolutely clear that Russia and China, Russia, India and China, they have a strategic vested interest in Bangladesh plus Bangladesh के अंदर USA के भी vested interest है, but somehow we can see that Russia and China are little bit more closer because of the projects that they are financing right now in context of nuclear power project and in context of Belt and Road Initiative. So these are the points that we have to understand. It is a very, very important article that is trying to indicate that how the geopolitics takes place, how this geopolitics is all happening in context of Bangladesh. I hope this point is clear to everybody और बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग पॉइंट है, ये आपको समझना चाहिए. बट एक मेजर कंसर्न है जो यहाँ पे बांग्लादेश के लिए बड़ा हानिकारक साबित हो सकता है, दैट इज रिलेटेड टू इट्स इकोनॉमी दैट इज नॉट बीन एबल टू रिवाइव आफ्टर द COVID-19 pandemic, and there are serious concerns related to inflation as well. And IMF, if we talk about, has also highlighted multiple shocks to Bangladesh economy in its post-COVID-19 recovery, aggravated by supply chain disruptions and the inflationary pressures due to the Ukraine war. Now, these are certain months that are very much challenging that would be there for the Bangladesh government in this particular context of geopolitical relations between Russia, India, China, and Moscow, and USA in context of Bangladesh. I hope you have been able to understand this editorial. It is very important, right? ये क्वेश्चन डायरेक्ट रिलीज में पूछ सकते हैं कि बांग्लादेश में रूपपुर प्रोजेक्ट कौन लगा रहा है, रशिया लगा रहा है, right? So these are certain news that we have to understand, and it's a very interesting article. You can consider and understand how the geopolitics is now taking place, how China is venturing into India's neighborhood and is trying to occupy that. Russia and China are on the same page, as you can see, but India has to very much make a very much, we can say India बीच में फंसा हुआ है between USA as well as between Russia and China. Okay. India doesn't need wolf warriors. Now, this article is very simple. I have already discussed this in very much detail when it comes to India and Maldives. I have already told you what is the scenario that is going on between India and Maldives. Now, what they are trying to say over here is they are trying to dissect the various speeches, various words that have been spoken by Maldives ministers, deputy ministers, and trying to dissect that when it comes to China and Maldives has gotten close to China, and China is also supporting this particular aspect because China has vested interest in Maldives. So as a result, the recent visits that have happened of Maldivian president to China, plus Maldivian president saying that even though their country is small, no one has the right to bully them, is basically is at a rhetoric that they want India out and they are not in favor of India. That is quite evident for the recent events that have taken place. Plus, our social media has also played a very important role in getting an anti Maldives sentiment as well. That is quite evident, right? वो चीज बिल्कुल साबित है हमारे सामने है. But आज के when we talk about this world, we cannot be isolated from Maldives. We have to keep Maldives in very close with contact with each other, because if Maldives will go far away from each other, from us, then it will create a very breeding ground for our non-state actors to support a lot of anti-India operations as well. So as a result, we cannot go on this rhetoric that we will be supporting only Indian islands, and Indian islands, when it comes very much clear that Maldives is a very important strategic area of interest for us and we cannot lose Maldives, right? Despite, even though there has been such incidents that have been taking place in the past, we have to make sure that we work with Maldivian ministries, we work with Maldivian government and try to create a peace and collaboration and coordination with each other when we talk about enemy is just at the gates of Maldives. Whether we talk about Pakistan terror groups or we talk about China, that is in full swing in order to make sure that it has its presence in the Indian Ocean, plus it is getting its presence in the Indian Ocean while they are getting closer to Maldives. So these are the aspects that we have to understand when we talk about India and Maldives and China. Okay. Now moving to the next part, this is relating to the 10th schedule. I have already discussed in detail in Saturday's class about this 10th schedule. I told you about the speaker of Maharashtra, what it decided and what are the things that he bypassed, whether to deciding the disqualification of the members of the Shiv Sena party that had a different faction formed with the opposition party. Now, let's try to discuss this just in a little bit detail. Now, when we talk about 10th schedule, it is basically to stop the defection that used to keep happen in 1960s and 70s. As a result, 10th schedule and 52nd amendment 1985 was proposed, where there were certain grounds that were laid for disqualification under the defection, and that basically came to be known as the anti-defection law. So once we have to understand this, that defection is very, very important. Anti-defection law that tries to keep the promises that have been made by the candidates who are contesting the elections to the electorate. But what we have seen in the recent years, in the past 5 to 6 years, that there have been certain loopholes that have been there in this whole system of this anti-defection law that has been exploited by the political parties, and they have been a very concerning factor as well. Plus, the authority that has been given to the speaker when we talk about to decide whether this amounts to disqualification or not, it is a quite serious concern, because whether we have seen over case in India that speaker generally belongs to the political party and there are certain biases that are there in favor of political party. So as a result, there has been certain calls that have been made by independent organizations and Supreme Court as well, that there shall be an independent tribunal that shall be vested with the power of deciding the cases of defection. So in this context, let's try to understand the gist. The defection of legislators during 1960s and 70s from their parent parties created political instability in many states. bringing down elected governments. Therefore, to ensure the stability of the elected governments, 52nd Constitutional Amendment introduced the anti-defection law through the 10th schedule in 1985. The authority to decide on the disqualification members is vested in the Speaker of the House. However, the Supreme Court in the M.K. Singh versus the Speaker of Manipur 2020 recommended that Parliament amend the Constitution to vest the powers in an independent tribunal headed by judges. Now, this is a serious aspect that is coming. Why? We have seen in the case of Eknath Shinde that how Speaker has supported the Eknath Shinde faction, where there have been a lot of loopholes that have been exploited by that Eknath Shinde faction. So, as a result, when we talk about this anti-defection law, there are certain grounds on which disqualification can be carried out. That is, if a member who has contested from one political party leaves or let's say resigns from a party, right? तो वो एक ग्राउंड बन सकता है डिफेक्शन का और किसी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी किसी और को ज्वाइन कर लेता है. Then there are certain grounds like when a nominated member joins after 6 months, then it is a serious cause of defection. Then an independent member joins any political party, then it also amounts to defection. So these are the certain grounds that we have of defection, and this is the part that we have to understand. And it has all aggravated this whole issue because of the cases that have happened in the last 5 to 6 years, particularly in the case of Maharashtrian Assembly. Okay, I hope you are able to understand this, right? Now moving to the next part. Now all we have is the world news. Iran says it attacked Israel's spy headquarters in Iraq, IS in Syria, vows more revenge. Israel to wind down more operations in South Gaza. Now, a location of Gaza, I'm telling you guys who have been there in this newspaper studying, and we are very much important and looking for clearing the UPSC prelims 2024. Mark my words, the location of Gaza is extremely important for UPSC 2024 prelims, right? So remember, you are able to understand all this. Okay. So these are all the world news. I don't think that is such importance to us. Okay, now this is important point that has been in detail right now, that India has announced the acquisition of 5 lithium blocks in Argentina. That is Khanji Bidesh India Limited, that is Kabil, operating under Ministry of Mines, signed an agreement with Argentina's state-owned Catamarca Minerva Y Energiga Sociedad del Estado based in Catamarca province. Kabil, which has obtained exploration and exclusivity rights for the blocks, will start exploration and development of the 5 lithium brine blocks. Upon discovery, exploitation rights for commercial production have been granted. Now, this is a very interesting aspect that has taken place in context of lithium extraction. India's lithium requirements amount to about 24,000 crore are met through imports, with the bulk of supplies coming from China. Often called as white gold, lithium is the key to the green transition and is used in energy storage solutions, batteries and mobile phones, and electric vehicles. And I'm telling you guys, this is the important part that you can see in your UPSC prelims GS paper that can come in this year UPSC prelims. Why? Because there has been a lot of talks about lithium. Lithium has been found in India, Srinagar as well. Second, lithium has been what we can talk about the lithium triangle. You have to understand about Chile, Bolivia, and Argentina, and we have, let's say, acquired 5 lithium blocks in Argentina as well. Plus, considering our fight of climate change, we need to transition towards clean energy, and if we need to transition towards clean energy, we need lithium, and most of our lithium is coming from China, where we know the supply chain disruptions have taken place regularly. So as a result, we do not want to depend only upon China. We want to diversify our options. How we can diversify our options? We can go for such operations that has been taken by Kabil. That's a company that has been operating under Ministry of Mines, that is able to acquire 5 lithium blocks in Argentina. So this is a very interesting point that we have to understand, and it is very, very important. Okay. Now moving to the next part. ठीक है, ये एक बार देख लेना, बस ऐसी है. सेंटर टू एक्सटेंड इंपोर्ट ऑफ एडिबल ऑयल एट लोअर ड्यूटी. इंडिया will extend the import of edible oil at a lower duty by another year, the government said in a notification, right? The lower import duty structure on crude palm oil, crude sunflower and crude soya oil was set to expire. The decision was expected as to government to is keen to keep the prices in check ahead of elections. Okay, so these are the points that you have to understand in this context, right? Chali. I hope this point is clear to everybody, and I think we are done with our today's analysis. Yes. Okay. Why were you absent yesterday? मैं ऐसा नहीं था बेटा कि कुछ दुनिया ऐसे ही absent हो गया था. Yesterday there was no newspaper. Why? Because of Pongal and Makar Sankranti, there was no e-paper edition, right? So that is why newspaper didn't come. So as a result, there was no Hindu newspaper analysis. Okay. So I hope this point is clear to everybody. हाँ जी, यहाँ तक कोई डाउट है किसी को? सो शेल वी हैव एनी डाउट? यू हैव एनी डाउट, यू कैन आस्क मी। हाँ जी गाइस। So these have been the interesting news that we have to understand related to our article, right? So today there was such interesting news related to Project Cheetah. Then there was this Israel and South Africa at International Court of Justice. Third important thing is related to, we have already discussed this in detail, that is Bangladesh geopolitical relations. And the fourth one related to India and Maldives. And fifth one we have already discussed related to this Argentina में हमने blocks acquire किए. सारे इन्वायरमेंट के इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक्स हैं बेटा प्रीलिम्स के लिए. कुछ ऐसा नहीं है कि ऐसा नहीं है, ऐसे तो 100 टॉपिक्स होंगे जो इन्वायरमेंट के लिए इंपॉर्टेंट होंगे, राइट? जितने भी करंट में आ रहे हैं, डू ट्राई टू रीड देम, दे आर आल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. ओके, कोई डाउट है तो पूछ सकते हो, अदरवाइज आई एम एंडिंग द सेशन. ओके, सी यू टुमारो सेम टाइम 9 a.m. टिल देन टेक केयर, बाय बाय.